Welcome to another edition of Talk Your Exposure. This is a very, very, very special one. I'm alongside half of the Meaningful People podcast with Yaakov, aka Jack. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good, man. I'm alive. I feel like every day is a blessing. Every day is better and better every single time. I wanted to
Wow.
ask you to start off the show. We typically always ask our guests to start the show off. What has 2021/2020 been for you?
Okay. It's been 2020 and 2021 have been both very different. 2020 has been I think a game changer, obviously. I think there's obviously so much negative. There's so many people that passed away and just so many people that were isolated from the world. And myself, I had two uncles that passed away, unfortunately.
Oh no.
But on the flip side, though, I think the silver lining for 2020. There was so much just acts of kindness going on. You had so many people helping others, whether it's like getting them food or just even financially. And as isolated as we all were, I kind of think that we all kind of felt like we were all in this together. We all didn't really know what to do, but we kind of like leaned on each other for support and help. So I think that was very beautiful. And 2021, it's kind of feels like, recovery, like in remission, like we're trying to get past this and trying to just be optimistic and look forward. And I think we're moving up. So that seems good.
It's almost a year ago till this date here in Toronto. We're in Toronto. I know you're in the States, but it's almost a year ago till the day that we went to lockdown here in Toronto. It kind of seemed like it was a little bit like in the beginning. I want to say it was funny, but it was almost like coincidental right near Passover where we're getting the plagues. Did you kind of think the same thing too?
It's interesting. It's interesting for us in New York, at least it kind of started like right around Purim time, which is like, celebration of what happened many years ago in Persia. A bunch of Jews were supposed to be killed and they weren't. And it was like this very behind the scenes type of miracle, it's a time usually when people get together and go to parties and just celebrate life. And we have a few commandments to do for the day. So for me, it was kind of around Purim, but for Passover, for Pesach, yeah, like leading into it was kind of eerie with, all the plagues that, the 10 plagues that go on. And also, Passover is such a time to be with family. And it was so weird being by ourselves, celebrating a holiday of freedom, kind of feeling like we're in captivity.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you mentioned that too, because this is the first time I'm turning 29 this year. And I guess, this will be the second time for me. The second time in 28 years that I only had family. I only had a Seder with like 4 people. Typically, we don't have a Seder with like 4 people. We typically have it, like you said, freedom. And it's supposed to be the time of us celebrating freedom and stuff like that. So when I was able to kind of look back at it and say, 4 people, like this is kind of weird. When you think about it, though, it's also kind of like, okay, well, I still have freedom within the 4 people that we have there. But at the same time, I still kind of feel a little bit locked up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do you feel the same way about that too?
Yeah, it's so weird because especially like, I'm Orthodox Jew and like in my life, I never imagined, I think I'm the same age as you. I was last year, I was 27 last year, but like, I couldn't imagine my wife and I making our own Seder by ourselves at our age. I was thinking maybe in another 30 years when we have our own, family and children and grandchildren. So it was definitely strange, but I think also for the silver lining for last year was that, even though we were confined in our homes, there was also that feeling of like, Passover is a celebration of getting freed from Egypt, in a certain way. We weren't there, but in a certain way we were there. And even in our lives, like we're always tied down by those things holding us down, whether it's like just being in that job that we don't like or just being, in that habit of just not growing. So there was that opportunity to say like, okay, you know what? I'm stuck in my home, but still like, I still have so many freedoms in my life. There's still so much opportunity for me to grow. So it was, I have to say I had a pretty pretty just from the holiday sense. The Passover for me was pretty uplifting last year.
And one thing that I forgot to mention is you are our first ever religious Jewish person on the show. And I know, and we are going to touch up on your show and to some things you talk about in your show and one of your former guests in a bit. But one of the things that I really wanted to ask you though was, you know, this is big for me because, like I mentioned to you personally before we started recording, was that I'm not very familiar with my religion, and I'm very embarrassed to say it.
Why are you embarrassed?
I'm embarrassed because I just kind of feel like I should be. You know what I mean? And it's funny. It's funny because I actually started wanting to learn again because of Amari Stoudemire, which we'll get to in a bit. But so Amari Stoudemire really, I feel like, okay, you know what? If somebody who wasn't Jewish or wasn't religious and didn't celebrate the religion and wasn't born as a Jew was, you know, so invested in our religion, I kind of felt like, well, damn, I should be invested in my religion, at least understand it. Because, you know, even for me, like I always kind of thought when I was younger, I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in anything like that. I got hit by a car one day, and that was my understanding, my realization, like, God's here. God is real. Whoa. You know, so again, this is very, very, you know, cool for me and important for me to be able to talk to you today, because I'm kind of hoping that we can kind of grasp different viewers and kind of grasp different people to understand our religion. And I know I should have started this in the beginning of the show, and I do apologize. But at the same time, I'm glad I was able to kind of announce that now, so people that are listening can really tune in and can really listen to the show the proper way. And when we're talking about Passover, we're talking about Purim, we're talking about, you know, the 10 commandments, the 10 plagues, stuff like that. We're able to, they can understand. So moving forward from that, though, I do want to ask you, out of Purim, the two holidays, you know, Purim and Passover, what is the difference of the two?
Okay, good question. And by the way, I just want to say I'm honored to be the first religious Jew on your show. You're definitely setting the bar super low. Like, I'm just a completely random dude.
And no. Sorry to cut you out, but I don't want to say that. You guys are the top Jewish podcast right now. Don't do that.
Thank you. I just texted Nah. I know Nachi's a little busy. I said you should join. Hold on, I'm literally texting him. Actually, I'm gonna take a picture of this. So thank you. I really appreciate that. But to answer your question, what's the difference between Purim and Passover? I mean, there's so many Jewish holidays, and they're like sprinkled throughout the year, and they each have their own flavor, and they're each like have a certain theme to them. So Passover is I guess more, you know, more known. And Nachi's out right now. He's busy.
It's all good.
But yeah, Passover is about freedom. I mean, we were free from Egypt, and we're celebrating that specific time that happened, and we're trying to transition into our lives today, like kind of how I mentioned before. Purim is celebrating a time, in history. It was in between the two, you know, when the two temples, in between. One temple was destroyed and another one wasn't yet built. And in between that time, it's you know, a lot of Jews lived in Persia, and they came out with this decree to kill all the Jews. And these little events happened that were very behind the scene. No like open miracles, no like splitting of the sea, no, you know, God giving the Torah by Har Sinai, and it was just like these little events that just kind of trickle that the whole plan that Haman was planning to kill all the Jews all flipped on his head, and in the end he was killed. So it's us, you know, celebrating what happened then, and just it's a very holy, special day. It's a day to tap into, to really, you know, our whole life, everything that we have, you know, nature, everything we have, it's kind of like a miracle, obviously. Like, we take it for granted because like we wake up and like, oh, it happened yesterday, it's happened again. I think that's a celebration of Purim, just tapping into like these little things, you know, whether me and you were I never met you, were having a conversation through technology. That's amazing. I'm breathing, I'm walking, I had a great lunch today. Like those little things, that's the celebration. And yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer. I don't know if that's even the right answer, but that's how I see it.
That's your answer though, and your answer, nobody can take that away from you. But I do want to ask you though, do you mind touching up a little bit on the relationship of King Achashverosh and Queen Esther?
Yeah, sure. So at that time, Achashverosh was the king of Persia, and frankly, he was a very powerful king, and globally he had so many provinces that he was in charge of, and he, in the beginning of the Purim story, he gets, he has a big party, and he's married to someone named Vashti, who was very wicked. And at the end of that chapter, he basically has her executed. So then he's trying to find a wife for himself, and he's trying to find the best wife that he could find. And it turns out that he the wife that he finds is Esther, who is a Jew. She didn't reveal that to him at that point, and frankly, she really didn't want to. She didn't want to marry him. But she was told by her uncle Mordecai that this is what God wants. This is your mission, even though that you want to be private and behind the scenes and not go through this. But like you have the power to really help us and really tell the world like that what we're really about. And she went into it and she stepped into it. And there's countless times in the Megillah, in the Purim story, where she's just going out of her comfort zone. And because she did it, she's one of the biggest, most incredible women in the Jewish religion that we look up to. And I know personally, I know so many girls named Esther, and she's really like, she was a queen and she is a queen, and she really without her we wouldn't be here today, honestly.
That is a phenomenal answer. That was probably, to be honest with you, when people ask me about Purim, because Purim to me is one of my favorite holidays. It's
really,
Purim is one of my favorite holidays. I love Hamantashen. I love Hamantashen. Give me some nice chocolate Hamantashen with some chocolate chips inside, and that's all I need. I could eat about 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 of them, but any type of like prune or anything like that, no.
No, not prune.
Not prune or poppy seed or anything. No. Just chocolate.
Could I tell you something that my a rabbi in my yeshiva said about Hamantashen? I don't know if it's accurate or not, but
please don't ruin it for me. Don't ruin it for me.
No, it's not. I think it's going to enhance it for you. Do you know why we eat Hamantashen?
It's for the Haman's hat.
Yeah, so yeah. I think I heard recently there's another reason, and it's basically they disprove that. But let's say that's true. I don't know if it's true or not. But it's kind of funny, right? Like Haman was a bad guy in the story, and his hat, we're eating that. Like my rabbi gave this example. Imagine we were celebrating, the fact that we're still around after the Holocaust. Imagine they made cookies of Hitler's mustache. Wouldn't that be very like off-colored? Like listen, Hitler was a really bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, and we're like, yeah, I get it. We're celebrating the fact that like we're still around. He's not around. But like, if we had like cookies with Hitler's mustache or swastika, like cookie, like that would be very off-colored, right? Like, right. So why is it okay for us to eat like Hamantashen, like Haman's like triangular hat? It's like cute, but kind of off-colored if you think about it. And his answer was like this, that what happened was Haman had this whole plan to kill all the Jews. He didn't succeed in killing one Jew. And that is so ironic. Like he had this whole plan. Nothing bad actually came out of it. In fact, it turned it around and it really, it helped us. And because of what happened, we were finally able to build the second temple. Mm-hmm. And we're celebrating that like the message of life. Like you always think things are, it's easy to see like all the bad in things. You go, oh man, you said you got hit by a car. That could be a very negative thing, but like in the bigger picture, you look at it and say like, you know what, that was before, but now like, look, you're trying to reach out for your truth or your mission in life. And we, that's the message of Purim. Like we take a step back and say, all these little things happening, there's a reason for it. And there's good. We believe God is good and he's just doing great things. And we can't really always see it, but at the end we're going to see it.
And it's very funny you say that. I mean, first of all, that I'm speechless, a little bit speechless about that, because that was a phenomenal answer. I'm going to say that every time that you say something that you know was really good, because earlier you weren't really sure, but I'm a reassure you. But honestly, it's interesting that you say that though, because when you think about so many magical things that's happened in our religion, so many holidays that we've been able to talk about, so many holidays that we've been able to bring back for our religion and celebrate. Purim to me, besides all of the, it's kind of another. Sorry, Purim to me is another one of those freedom ones. You know how we talked earlier about Passover, which we're going to get to in a second. But Purim to me, that's like, bro, we can literally sit back, eat hamantashen. I can go to the synagogue and listen to Megillah reading it freely if I want to. I can give you a mishloach manot if I like to do that. So I can do what I want to do during my religion, you know, freely. We're not worrying about Haman or not worrying about anybody coming and trying to take that away from me.
Yeah,
You know?
no, it's mind blowing. Just throughout history, we always see constantly in every religion, people getting persecuted for what they believe in. And yeah, that was like the norm back then. And it's really wild to live. You live in Canada, I live in United States, or wherever anyone's living. A lot, obviously not in all countries yet, unfortunately, but to be where we're really living in a blessed time. Obviously, there's negative aspects to the time we're living in for sure, but that, yeah, it's so easy to take for granted the ability to go and pray and worship and serve God in the way that we want to, and be able to do that. It's really a blessing. It really is.
No, for sure. And even with that as well, transition to Passover a little bit. The Passover story to me, I feel, is so amazing. I really do it. I'm not just saying that to exaggerate it, but think about everything that we went through. You know what I mean? Like, as Jewish people, we went through. We had to go through Pharaoh, who didn't know what we were. He pretty much got these people. I'm going to call them people for a second. And said, "What do I do with them?" And then we have people that were part of Pharaoh's crew, I guess you could say, that were Jewish and wanted to save us. And that was what we spoke about a couple weeks ago in Parsha Yisro, I think it was.
Parsha Yisro, yeah.
So
yeah, nice.
See, I know a little bit.
Yeah, dude, you know a lot.
I know a little bit. But yeah,
you also have a beard of a rabbi. You could totally pull it off.
It's funny because as I was looking at myself on the camera before you jumped on, I'm like, I bet he's going to comment on my beard today.
For sure, dude. You have a beastly beard. Everyone should comment on your beard. You have a great beard.
I love it. Thank you. But just touch up a little bit on the story of Passover, because I think this story is so unique and so powerful to the Jewish people.
Yeah, sure. It's kind of strange, right? Because Passover is us celebrating, God taking us out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, but that same God put us in Egypt, right? So it's kind of like going over to someone and punching them and then paying them for punching them. Like, just don't punch me and then don't pay me. It's kind of interesting. But what it is, what it is really, it kind of goes back to Abraham, to Abram. There was, God tested him in certain ways to show his connection to him. And he passed so many of them with flying colors. It's an argument which one exactly he failed. But because he failed that test, it showed there was a lack of connection between Abraham and God. And our goal is always to connect to the higher level, to God and who he is. And because Abraham didn't connect, it's not a punishment. It wasn't a punishment that his children would need to get to that connection. It was just the reality. Like, listen, if you want to get to that connection, then you have to you really have to connect to me. So because of that, we were sent down. His children were sent down to Egypt, and to really be out of our comfort zone, to be in a it was obviously a very terrible place for us. And what Egypt did to us at that point is they really just worked us and overworked us to the point that we couldn't really think so much. Like, yeah, we had a place to live in Egypt, in Goshen, but the biggest travesty was that we couldn't really think and say, like, okay, listen, even though I'm working now, I could still connect to people in the background. If those are watching this, my brother and coworker, but people, yeah, so we really couldn't focus. And what God, we cried out to God, and when we did that, God was like, boom, that's it. That's the connection that you needed, and at that point, God's like, okay, we're gonna get them out, and of course, Pharaoh was really stubborn about it, and understandably, I guess, like, we were slaves for him, and we were building and doing all that, and he just didn't want to let us go, and then God's like, okay, we're gonna turn all the water into blood, and he's like, no, still not. I'm gonna send a bunch of frogs, still not, and went through 10 crazy plagues, and yeah, until the point that we finally got to get by God himself, got taken out of Egypt, and really, get led to through the desert to the giving of the Torah, which is the holiday of Shavuot. But yeah.
Hey, we're gonna transition to that one as well, because I feel like there's so many holidays. Again, I don't even know all holidays. I know about Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Purim, Hanukkah, Passover, and there's like Lag BaOmer. I know.
Nice. Yeah, you got most of them.
I got most of them, but I don't know. But the Tisha B'Av, I don't know when that is. I don't know when Tisha B'Av is. I don't know when a lot of these ones are. So again, it's
sure.
so
well, Tisha B'Av, I'll give you. Tisha B'Av, I'll give you a hint. It's very easy. Tisha means 9, and B'Av means of, and of O-F, and of is the name of the month. It's the 9th of. That's Tisha B'Av.
There we go.
But it's
that was a very easy explanation. If only I knew that.
No, well, now you know it. Yeah, no, Tisha B'Av it's the saddest day of the year. It will be turned into a holiday one day, but it's commemorating the destruction of the temples.
Beit HaMikdash.
Yeah, the Beit HaMikdash, exactly. But sorry, you were saying something before that.
No, I was just saying that those are the holidays. We, like I said, we have so many holidays, but I feel like, before we really get to those other holidays, I know I'm skipping a little bit, but I feel like all these holidays, typical, they made us stronger, but there's so much hate towards our religion. Why is that?
I don't know. I think there's unfortunately a hate to a lot of religions. Unfortunately, I went to a class in Esha Torah once. It was from Professor Ken Spiro. He's great stuff, and he was trying to break it down of why people hate Jews, and he kept on giving reasons, but he gave both reasons, maybe Jews, there's too many Jews, and then there's like, no, but they're complete minorities, not enough of them. Like, he was giving back, I don't remember it exactly, I literally heard this 5 years ago. I don't know if there's a real reason. If I had to pinpoint it, I think Jews are different in a way. I'm wearing a kippah, yarmulke. Maybe we have a lot of commandments. Don't get me wrong. I don't think all Jews are good people. There's like any religion, there's bad people within it. But I don't know if that's the reason. I just think we're a little different. And when unfortunately, people sometimes don't like when something or someone's different. And maybe that's where it comes from. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Fair enough. That's again another great answer. You are 3 for 3 today. Gosh,
I'm gonna totally miss the next shot, so I'm ready for it.
Hey man, Michael Jordan in the clutch. But I do want to ask you though, related back to Passover for a second. If you were, I know it might be a difficult question, and if you don't want to answer, it's completely fine. If you were in Pharaoh's shoes, would you believe Moshe when he keeps coming to him saying, listen, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. If you don't do this, I'm going to do this. Would you believe Moshe?
So maybe at first I wouldn't. It was a time, don't forget, to his defense, it was a time where there was, I'm going to sound like heebie-jeebie, but there was black magic in the world at that point. There was the ability to distort reality in a certain way. I'm thinking Doctor Strange in a certain way that it's, according to the Torah, it's, the way they did it, it's not allowed because they manipulated things. But to turn, a staff. This happened to turn a staff into a snake. That's, you know, Moses and went to Pharaoh. Like his people were able to do that. It wasn't real. It was like kind of like projecting in a certain way, like kind of like Meg. What's the bad guy in Spiderman?
Oh my God.
Forgot the guy with the like fishbowl on his head.
Oh my God.
No, I was gonna say Magneto. It's not him.
It's
like Italian sounding.
It's on like the tip of my tongue right now.
Yeah, well, I will remember. I'll remember it like when I'm like go to bed tonight, like in my like about to fall asleep. Like, oh, that's what it was. So like, yeah, kind of like him, like projections. But so yeah, so they had magic, and maybe part of him didn't want to see it, but yeah, after a certain point, I think he just got so stubborn about it, whether he saw like just what was happening around him. So when I heard a great example from a rabbi, he said it's kind of like Pharaoh was like as if he jumped off a building at a certain point. Like if you jump off a building, like halfway through, you can't decide to change your mind and say, nah, I don't want to jump off. Like your decision's made. He kind of like went down a trajectory like that. There's a place of no return. Like he just dug a hole and he's like, I'm not getting out of it. And even if it kind of made sense, he's just like, he just went down and he's like, no, you know?
Fair enough. No, fair enough. There you go. That's 4 for 4, by the way. After Passover comes the holiday of
Shavuos.
So can you give a rundown to our viewers of what Shavuot is?
Yeah, Shavuos is us celebrating the giving of the Torah. It's the only time in history where you had a mass revelation of so many people, you know, 600,000 men plus hundreds of thousands of women and children, all seeing an event, all seeing, you know, God give the Torah on Har Sinai, and there's many miracles there. People were able to see thunder, they were able to hear lightning, whatever the heck that means. And yeah, we're celebrating. It's the celebration of God giving us the Torah. You know, the Torah for us is so much. It's obviously, it has our history in there, but it's also like, it's the blueprint for us. It's how we could, you know, our goal is to enhance the world, make this world a better place, and really try to make this world a better place in so many ways. And that's what the Torah is. So on Shavuos, we try to stay up the whole night. It's like it's a 2-day holiday, but we try to stay up the first night, the whole night, studying the Torah and just celebrating that, and just learning it. It's vast. There's so much to learn. You could spend a million years on it, and there's always more to learn. And yeah,
there are 613 mitzvot, and you know, I'm sure you probably know all of 613. I don't. Maybe I do.
Definitely do not. I definitely do not. I don't. I definitely don't. There's so many mitzvos that are like very temple related. So we don't have the temple anymore.
Right.
So obviously the way to connect them, it's they say if you learn about mitzvos, then it's like you're doing a lot of them. So
right.
Even the ones that we don't have anymore, but I definitely don't know them. I hope to know them one day, but there's so many.
I was just joking. 613 mitzvot is probably a lot of learning and probably a lot of years to learn. But I do want to ask you though. I know you asked this in one of your recent podcasts. What is one of your favorite mitzvot, or one of your, you know, I forgot the exact words you used. What's your favorite mitzvot or something that you're doing this like today?
Yeah, so I always hated this question, by the way, you should know. I love asking it, but like having to answer this question, like have my guests, you know, have our guests answer it. It's fine. But I came up, I think this past week I came up with what for me right now is a mitzvah I'm connecting to. So, you know, God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day, he created this concept of resting, of just like taking it back. And every 7th day is Shabbos, is Sabbath. For, you know, maybe some of your listeners know, some of them don't, but it's basically every 7th day we're commemorating that God created the world 6 days. Each day, you know, one day he created light and dark, the next day he created, you know, fish and birds, the next day he created the vegetation, and then he created, you know, animals and people. But the 7th day, it's for us, we're able to say 6 days a week, you know, we're working or we're doing activities, but the 7th day, like that's we're trying to imitate God. We don't work, we don't, you know, we don't, and just to, there's just 39 things that we don't do. Like, we don't use fire. So, modern days, like, we don't use technology. So I'm addicted to this thing. I'm addicted to my phone. But literally on Shabbos, I don't have my phone. I don't have the internet. I don't drive. I don't work. I don't cook. And it's really, for me, it's liberating to be able to, like, just refocus, reset, and say, like, okay, what did I accomplish this past week? What do I want to do the next week? I sit down with my wife and my son. We sometimes have, meals with people, and we have the Shabbos Suda. And, I go pray in shul every day. But on Shabbos, prayers is longer, but it's beautiful. They're singing, and it's just really a day to connect to God, but connect to ourselves. I don't know. I just really love Shabbos. It's really, when I was younger, I definitely felt, Shabbos was a burden for me. Like, what do you mean? Like, I can't play Game Boy? Like, it was very annoying for me. I didn't have to go to yeshiva to go to school, but I think as I get older, I'm just really appreciating the beauty of Shabbos. It's really, it feels like a privilege for me that I'm able to do it. Yeah.
If I ever come to New York, my cousin lives, I have a lot of family lives in New York, but if I ever come to New York, I'm going to have to possibly stop by your shul and get some cholent.
Yeah, definitely. You're invited for Shabbos. You're invited for a meal. Totally come for Shabbos.
You might possibly know my cousin as well. I don't know what part of New York you live in, but he lives in Landers, I want to say, or he went to Landers. His name is Kobe Dorfman.
His name is very familiar to me. I definitely not, like, off the top of my head, I'm like, Kobe, of course, we're boys. But his name is very familiar. But yeah, I'm familiar with Landers College. It's not far from me. Okay, maybe the type I know him by face,
Possibly. Like I said, he is the one that introduced me to your podcast. So,
no way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kobe. I should like pay him. I feel like he's like marketing.
No. No. But I do want to touch back into the Jewish holidays. I do want to transition now a little bit to Rosh Hashanah. To me, obviously, Rosh Hashanah is our Jewish New Year. New Year, not Jewish New Year, but our New Year. Where there's like 3 back-to-back holidays in that one. It's Rosh Hashanah. I don't know if it's in any order, but Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, and Yom Kippur, actually. Yom Kippur and the dancing one. What's the dancing one called? Steven, you're right there. Oh my God. What's it called? The dancing one. What's it called?
Simchas Torah.
There we go. Simchas Torah, the time that we got the Torah. Oh my God. Anyways. But yeah, so talk to us about, those 4 holidays in particular and why they're so holy and
they're holly also. We can go with that. Yeah, sure. They're each their own, category, but I'll start from the beginning. Yeah. Rosh Hashanah is the celebration of the new year. And, I think at least in America, like, the celebration on January 1st is like going to Times Square and like partying and definitely having a good time. Rosh Hashanah for Jews, it's definitely less exciting in a certain way. We're in shul most of the day. We hear Chauffeur, but truly the essence of Rosh Hashanah is like we're starting off the new year. We're really saying that this year that's coming up, we're acknowledging that Hashem, he's God, he's King, and we're his people and we belong to him, and this is his world, and that's why we're here. And most of the day is singing and praises, and similarly to Shabbos for me, like as a kid, it was very like, I have to sit in shul all day. That's pretty annoying. Like, yeah, to blow shofar, it's fun, but it's really just a wake up call to like get ready for the next year, and just we're in a good place. We Hashem is our Father, he's our King, and the more we acknowledge it, the deeper our connection will get. And it's good. And the shofar, blowing of the shofar, it's like a wake up call for us to really say like, okay, like listen, we said last year that we're going to be better, like no, but like this year, like we have to be better. And even if it's in a small way, it's very often we try taking on very large things, and taking on very large things is great, but it's very hard to stick. So,
sorry to cut you off, but do you mind just touching up real quick on where does the shofar come from?
So yeah, the shofar originally it came from when Abraham was going to offer his son Isaac to God and to shecht him and use him as a carbon. And obviously we know the whole story that you know, at the last second, God's like, no, like, don't actually do it. I was just testing you. At that point, Abraham saw there was a ram that was near, and Abraham, and it was actually the first ram from the beginning of time, and which wasn't so prior. So it was a lot of years, but like 2,000 years, which isn't a lot of time, I guess, and from then to then. But yeah, so Abraham sacrificed that, and he had to show, and he took the ram's horn and made it into a shofar. But yeah, it's one of the commandments. I'm not exactly sure. I don't really fully know its origin. Okay, it's good. I have to look up on this. But I definitely know there's a lot of laws of like what type of horn and how it's made and all that to be a ram's horn. But yeah, that's the deal with the shofar.
Fair enough. I know you're sorry. I interrupted you, and I do apologize, but I know you're touching up on the Rosh Hashanah and those holidays. So please continue.
Yeah. So 10 days later, in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's a very special time. It's a time where, you know, Yom Kippur for us, it's probably the holiest day of the year. Yom Kippur. So in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're really trying to like work on ourselves and do better. Be you know, we always have to be kind to everyone, but like to be extra kind, to go out of our way to really work on ourselves. And it leads up to Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, the Day of Forgiveness. It's really a reflection of the past year, and we try to go through the things that we've done, and we're basically admitting to God, we're like, listen, we're not perfect, and we're not a perfect people. And you go through our history, we've done a lot of things that went against what God told us to do. And it's really us just apologizing and not just saying it, really like believing it and feeling it and saying that like, we're going to do better. And a custom that I really like is we really try to reach out before Yom Kippur to friends and family and enemies and anyone who we may have wronged, and say we have to apologize to them, because you know God, one of God's things is that, listen, you have to obviously apologize to me, but you have brothers and sisters, you know, that are close to you, and if you're not going to apologize to them, then I know when you come to me it's not sincere, because these are my children. So so you really have to really work on, you know, just apologizing to anyone, and it could get really awkward, because you know there's people sometimes we don't really think we were in the wrong, but you have to really tap in, try to be in their shoes and say like, maybe I could have really done better. Yeah. So that's Yom Kippur, and yeah, it's you know, we fast that day. We don't eat anything, and we don't wear leather shoes, and we're not intimate with our spouses. Like we're trying as hard as we can to be like an angel-like figure somewhat, to not like get into the, you know, the world's like, you know, eating's great. It's not like we don't not eat to like punish ourselves. It's we don't eat because we're trying to really try to be like an angel in a certain way, and just try to be the next level. Cleanse
your body.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's really cleansing our body, and really just taking away all the toxic behavior and toxic things that we've done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important for us to know that like we definitely live in a time where like we think that like we need to be perfect in so many ways, and like I think it's that day is like saying like we're not perfect, and to think that we strive for perfection, but the goal is to just trying for it and being sincere about it. Definitely for me, a weight is lifted once Yom Kippur is over. Like it's like, phew, like I made it past it, and like you know, it's a day that God decides who's gonna live and who's not gonna on that day. So but like after like we go into the year of like as if, you know, we don't know what God decreed, but as if God decreed that like we're gonna survive another year. And it's Yeah. So, but that leads into a few days later is Sukkot, which is a commemoration to when we were in the desert. God had this. It was Anane Kavod, this cloud of glory that protected us. And yeah, we're celebrating the fact that God was taking us through. And it's really a celebration of it's like you had Rosh Hashanah of, it's a certain level of, we have the shofar to blow to wake us up. And then you had Yom Kippur. We don't even need a shofar. We don't need anything. It's just praying. It's just with our words. And then Sukkot is really a celebration of, we make huts. It's like kind of strange. And we take a lulav and esrog. Like we take very like naturistic type of things and we build with that. And it's the celebration of taking this world that we have and celebrating with it. I know that, I think this is where we differ in maybe Christianity somewhat. There's no, like, we don't, for Judaism, like, we don't really have like celibacy. Like, that's not a thing, we believe that, we have nature, we have, whether it's having a meal or just anything around us, we try to take those items, whether it's like shaking lulav and esrog. It seems pretty crazy, but we're taking that and we're saying like, no, this has value to it. Like, this is a way I can connect to God. And that's really the celebration of Sukkot. And it's definitely a fun time. People have nice parties in their sukkah, and it's definitely a good time of year.
People sleep in their sukkahs. People do all that stuff.
You're supposed to do. You're supposed to do everything. Yeah, you've been in a sukkah before?
Of course, many times. I've been to my cousin's house numerous times. I've even helped build a couple of them.
Oh, no way, really?
Yeah. So I'm not I'm not new to it, but at the same time I haven't done it in a while.
Right.
I haven't done it in a while. Another one of my favorite holidays is Simchas Torah. I mean, obviously that's the time that we got the Torah. I think that's the time we got the Torah, correct?
We're celebrating. We got the Torah on Shavuot, but we're celebrating that time because it's there's a lot. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, and then Simchas Torah. They're all like within they're all within a month. Yeah, but they're all like getting to the next level. So like the level after Sukkot is like okay, we're celebrating the world, and then the next level is like the Torah. Like we have the Torah. And it's not really a celebration of like studying the Torah. That's for Shavuot. It's like just the concept of having the Torah. And like you mentioned before, like we're dancing. We're just holding the Torah, and we're just so happy to like have this guiding light in our lives to really just help direct us be better people and just connect with this world. Like that's really what Simchas Torah is. And there's definitely a few like wild parties and shuls, and we're just dancing and singing. It's a fun time.
My goal is to come to New York to celebrate Simchas Torah. I'm not gonna lie. I said it to my cousins a while back ago. I said, honestly, Kobe, if I ever get the opportunity to, I definitely want to celebrate Simchas Torah in New York, because I've heard, I mean Israel of course as well, but I've heard that what happens in New York, the expression, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. I feel like I've heard, it's kind of the same thing of, well, not to that extreme what they mean, but in terms of Simchas Torah, there's a lot of good partying going on. There's a lot of good, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of good time. And one thing that I'm a little biased, but I think Jewish people really know how to party.
Yeah, you're definitely biased. Yeah, I think it's funny. Well, first of all, I think I lived in Israel for a few years. I think any holiday in Israel, it's just so magnified because there's so many people there, like so tapped in, and yeah, definitely. I've definitely done all these holidays in New York. I've done it in Israel. New York's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but like Israel's the place to be for all these holidays. But what was I gonna just say? I forgot what I was gonna say. But I was getting excited about it, but I don't remember. So
it's all good. If you remember, just let me know. We'll come back to it. The one of the final holidays, I think it is. I think that we've touched up on majority of them, if not all of them, except Hanukkah. And Hanukkah obviously is I mean, not the same exact thing, but a lot of people like to compare Hanukkah to Christmas, even though it's not the exact same thing, but just in terms of the presents and celebration and stuff like that. Hanukkah to me, you know, it's weird because when I think about Hanukkah, I think of like, you hear the story of, eight crazy nights, you know, and how they had oil for 8 nights and it lasted for 8 days. And, you know, now here we are, we have a holiday out of it. But it's like, I don't know. When I was younger, I always kind of felt like that never actually happened, you know, and it's not, I'm not saying that it didn't happen, because it did, but it's just like, oil lasts for 8 days. Like, what do you mean that's impossible? But what was your intake when you first heard about this story?
Yeah. So Hanukkah was another time in history where we were being, I want to say persecuted. So yeah, I think there's two miracles of Hanukkah. Like you mentioned, the oil is one. There's also the war aspect to it. That there was a war with a bunch of Jews against Greeks. Like, these Greeks were like, I think of the movie like 300. Like, they were like the top. They were the best. And like, we had like, think of like a bunch of like old rabbis, and like all these old rabbis fought for their freedom and they won. So it's like kind of wild like that. That's one part of it, which is in itself a miracle. And we were definitely outnumbered, but we were able to succeed. But yeah, the oil, well, yeah, basically like it's us celebrating that in the temple. Unfortunately, you know, Greeks went in and they just, you know, smashed and broke a lot of stuff. And one of the services of the temple is lighting the menorah. And each, you know, we definitely don't have enough time to go into it, but each service in the temple like represents something else in our way we could connect to God. And with the menorah, we needed pure oil, and they went in and they broke all of it. And the Jews went in after, and they're able to find one jug, but one jug is like good for one night. And the miracle that happened was it was able to go and last, you know, supernaturally to last longer. It's not really so exciting. I hear where you're coming from, but the message for there was that, you know, like God's taking care of us, you know, and just the world in supernatural ways. You know, that's a lot of it. But it's interesting, the holiday of Hanukkah, at least in the beginning, we weren't really, the Greeks weren't killing us. They made a rule that we weren't allowed to do 3 mitzvahs. We weren't allowed to do Rosh Chodesh, the celebrating of the new moon, the new month, refreshing the new month. We weren't able to do Bris Milah, and we weren't able to do I should know the third one. Oh man, I should Google that. I have a feeling it's Shabbos, but I'm not sure. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I should know, and I'm not perfect. But yeah, basically it was, you know, that time in the culture, they were very into, like, let's say, like celebrating the human, the body, and these 3 mitzvahs that we have were basically saying that, you know, Bris Milah is a part of us saying that like our body isn't perfect, and we have to, you know, we have to do something to show our connection to God in a certain way. And they weren't trying to kill us at first. It was really just saying that, like, listen, you could do the mitzvahs, you could keep the Torah, but like there's certain parts of it that you can't do. Like there's certain parts, come on, like at the end of the day, it's the human body that's the king of everything. And it was kind of us saying like, no, like we keep the whole Torah. It's not just some of it.
Yeah.
It's gonna, that third mitzvah is gonna come back to me when I go the bad guy in Spiderman, by the way.
I was about to say the same thing. I was about to say the exact same thing.
You know, I'm Googling. I can't hold back. I'm Googling. Hold on. I'm Googling Spider-Man.
Go ahead. While you do that, I'm gonna transition a little bit to you know, a couple things. Now, you know, I know we don't have a lot of time to talk about everything in our religion.
Mysterio.
Ah, wow.
Sorry.
It's all good. Now all our viewers know who you're talking about. But yeah, so, you know, now as I was gonna say, you know, we don't have a lot of time to be able to talk about everything in our religion. There's so many things to talk about, And I wish we I feel like this would be like a whole 24 hours of podcast if we were to talk everything about our religion. But there's one simple thing that I want to talk to you about, that relates to our podcast is, your last episode you had on Meaningful People was Meaningful People, correct? Wow.
Yeah.
Here we go again. Anyways,
Yeah.
Meaningful People was with Amari Stoudemire. First of all, how did that even happen? And second of all, what were you like, what was that moment like for you guys?
Yeah. So it took 6 months for us to get his attention. We definitely saw that, like, he started following our Instagram account. So we're like, okay, this is a good sign. And then, we had a guest on and we blocked their face on our Insta story and we said, who could it be? And someone guessed Amari Stoudemire. And this guest that we had on had this cool blue hat and was wearing like this funky suit. And we said, like, maybe it's Amari. And he responded to that with like laughing emojis. So I'm like, okay, he's definitely seeing stuff that we're doing. But yeah, we I think it was like around a year ago that Amari was in Israel, and I think Ar Sameach, and he became a religious Jew, and it's very intriguing. I don't know if there's ever been someone like he may be the most famous convert or most famous person to become a religious Jew ever. I don't know. And it's just we try to, Nachi and I try to go after people that are meaningful, and sometimes they're famous, sometimes they're not famous. We believe everyone's meaningful, literally, and we just want to talk to people about their story. But we knew Amari is very famous, and it was just wild to see someone who he had it all. He's an NBA star. He could have unlimited amount of money, unlimited amount of fame, and still say, like, you know what, I'm going to give up a lot of that to like tap into something bigger than myself. And I'm a religious Jew, and I just saw that, and there's no way I sacrificed the amount that Amari sacrificed to be where he is today. And it's, definitely for me personally, and I think so many people, just to be like, wow, this guy's an inspiration. Even if you're not Jewish, I think it's very inspiring to see someone like going through, something, just going through life and saying, you know what, I think for whatever reason, I think this is my truth and I'm going to go for it. Like it's really inspiring.
For sure. And honestly, like, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get more involved with my religion as well, because I agree with you. To be able to hear that Amari Stoudemire wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to study, then 7 o'clock, 7:30, he's on the phone doing something for his business, and by 9 o'clock he's at Brooklyn Nets practice. To me, that's like, listen, if he could do it, why the hell can I do it? You know what I mean? Right. And there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to do it. There's no reason why I can't do it, because I don't wake up, I have a busy life, but my life is nowhere close to being as busy as Amari Stoudemire's. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
to be able to see that from him was very inspirational for me, and for you guys to be able to have him on your show as well. Like, that must have been just, first of all, it must have been like I want to say shocking, because again, you guys are very great people, but at the same time, just like a little overwhelming, maybe not.
Yeah, it was definitely, Nachi's listening to this. Nachi, after when you release it, Nachi, why couldn't you come on with me? He's busy. He's very busy having today. But so yeah, Nachi is from our relationship. He's the sports guy. So Nachi was super intimidated. He literally, as he said in the interview, he watched Amari as he grew up, like playing. And I'm not a sports guy. All the listeners who I hear good things about your sports podcast, I really do. But I'm not a sports guy. So I was nervous, but I wasn't as intimidated, I don't think. But yeah, we were both obviously nervous. But honestly, like 3 seconds in, he just made us feel so comfortable. Like he's such a cool guy. He's a really just easy person to connect with. And prior to us, trying to get his attention, so many people were like, yeah, I know Amari, I'm friends with him. And none of these leads really got us towards Amari. And like, I was so weirded out. I'm like, all these people think they're so close to him. And I think now I feel super close to Amari Stoudemire. And I think that's just his effect. He's just such a kind person, and you talk to him and you feel like you're his best friend. Like, yeah, he's one of the boys,
I hear that.
I'm BFFs with Amari Stoudemire. I mean, not a
Hey,
big
man.
deal.
Hey, man, you know what I mean? I'm about to say it couldn't happen to any better, meaningful people in the world.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to get into some quick hitters before we end the show. Obviously, like I said earlier, I really do wish that we had a lot more time to be able to talk about, our religion and stuff. But I do want to ask you three to maybe four quick hitters. First one I want to ask you is, now that you have a child, what is it like being able to try to, when he gets older, what are some things you're going to be trying to teach him to, fast and to do all the things that you didn't want to do when you were younger?
Yeah, so I think this is, for me personally, I grew up in a religious home, and I kind of had like this structure to like the path to like follow, religious laws and be tapped in. But at least for me in my life, like I kind of just did everything as like, cause I had to. That's kind of like how it felt like for me. And when I went to Israel, I kind of like, people there were so tapped in, and it didn't feel like, not that people in New York or America or everywhere aren't tapped in, but there's something different going on there. And it kind of gave me the ability to like really step out of like my life in a certain way and really just like understand that like, I think I was defining Judaism incorrectly. Like I kind of defined it as like law, like the law is, this is what you got to do. And that's what it is. Mm-hmm. But I kind of like reinterpreted it as like Judaism's a relationship. It's our relationship with God. It's a relationship with ourselves, a relationship with people. And I don't know the nitty grittiness of like teaching my son everything, but if there's anything I could imbue to him, it's that like, this is a relationship, and every relationship, there's ups, there's downs. Sometimes you feel inspired. Sometimes you feel uninspired. Sometimes you feel connected. Sometimes you don't. But that's what a relationship is. And you always have to, I'm married, and there's it's one of those things that's a lot of hard work, but it's worth every moment. And so if there's anything I could imbue to him, it's that like, it's Judaism's a relationship.
Fair enough. Again, that's another great answer. You had a lot of great answers today. I want to
give a terrible answer. I want to, whatever your next question is going to be, I'm going to answer it very poorly. Maybe I'll give a real answer after, but I'm going to give it 4 answers. So just heads up.
So what you're trying to say is that you're trying to crap on my show. All right, cool.
No, not at all. No, I'm just like,
I'm joking.
So the next one I gotta, so get ready.
I'm just joking. Like I said, you're doing a great job, and honestly, like I do appreciate your answers. Next question I want to ask you is, if you could have anybody on your podcast in the world, who would it be?
I would have myself. I would really want to talk to myself. Kidding. I want to give a bad answer. Anyone living or anyone from history?
It's your world.
Wow, it's such a wide question.
Oh, my next question is gonna be even wider, so be ready for that.
Okay. so I'm gonna go to someone from history. I would want to have. I'd probably want. I mean, I guess I'm named after my great grandfather, but he's technically named. I'd probably want to have Yaakov Avinu, Jacob. He went through a very hard life. His brother tried killing him. His father-in-law tricked him into his wife, and he made him work for him. He was robbed, and he had to run away and work from nothing. His father didn't, always believe that he was going to be the son to take over the lineage. And he made it through. I mean, Joseph was sold, and the relationship with the brothers, and he had a very hard life, but still he's the pillar of Torah for us. And I think my head would explode if I spoke to him. But yeah, if I could have anyone, it'd probably be him. He's I look up to all our forefathers, but there's definitely, for me personally, there's a extra special connection. So I would want to talk to him.
Fair enough. Now, my next and final question for the show, in terms of, and even quick hitters as well, if you had you have Shabbat, you know what I mean, and Friday night post COVID, obviously post COVID, you have 5 empty seats. Who you feel, Jewish or non-Jewish, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter who they are. 5 empty seats, and you could fill them with 5 people, dead or alive. Who would they be?
Okay, I'm gonna only try to do alive people because the
no. We want dead or alive, but you can't pick Yaakov or you can't pick Yaakov.
Okay. Wow, these are good questions. Okay. One person, it's not the answer you're gonna want it to be, but my wife.
Okay.
Sorry,
she's already there.
She's already there. Oh, shoot. Okay, she's there. She's there. Friends and family there.
But you have 5 empty seats, and that's your whatever you want it to be. It could be the rabbi from your shul. It could be whatever.
Right. This is a good question. Okay. One person I'd have, because I've planned on this and I want to do it. I want Casey Neistat. Do you know, are you familiar with Casey Neistat?
I feel like I've heard the name before. I'm not 100% sure.
He's one of the kings of YouTube. He recently he hasn't been on it so much. He's Jewish. He's not religious, but my friend and him connected once, and he mentioned to him, he's like, oh, maybe we'll have you for a meal once. So to be able to, I don't know. I've watched all his stuff on YouTube. I'm a massive fan of his. To be able to show him a Shabbos meal, I would want to do. It's probably not the direction of how you thought I'd answer it, but he's one person.
It's your dinner.
Yeah, he's one person. I can't do anyone who's from longer part in history, because I just wouldn't be able to have a conversation with them. My head would explode too much. Probably my Rebbe, Reb Noach Victor. He lives in Israel. He runs a yeshiva there. He's just he's the person that in my life that whenever I just don't know, it could be anything. It could be religion related or work related or just anything. He's always there for me. I know I could always call him at any point. So I love him, and yeah, he's great. And I've eaten by so many meals in his home, so I would definitely like to host him. Okay, I have 3 more to go.
Maybe you could use this question on one of your podcasts.
Yeah. I'm thinking I definitely want to have someone super famous, so I could say I had them. Who's I don't know. I'm trying to think who's the most famous Jew.
Adam Sandler is pretty up there.
Yeah, maybe Adam Sandler. He seems like a funny guy.
Ben Stiller, possibly.
Nah, I mean Ben Stiller is also funny. I don't know. Adam Sandler is definitely funnier. and then
Mark Cuban.
No, he's too scary. I'd be scared. He's so scary to me. I just should be trying to impress him the whole time. I'm trying to think of someone. I'm gonna go with Reb Moshe Feinstein. I think he passed away in the late 80s. He was the rabbi of America for so many years, and he was this very little man, and he just knew Kol Torah Kula. He just knew everything about Torah, and he was also one of the most humble people you ever know. His house was always open for anyone and everyone, and he gave everyone time. He definitely had a big. I was never alive in his time, but I've read so much about him. So definitely him.
I forgot that Drake's Jewish too.
Drake is Jewish. Someone actually suggested when he had a line in one of his songs about yeshiva. Someone's like, okay, when's he going on the podcast? I don't know if he's gonna ever come on, but you never know. But no, not Drake. I don't know. He's good music. I don't know. He wouldn't be my guy. And the last person, I'm gonna be cliche, but you asked me the question. I have you, man.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. I mean, I'm honored. I've never had that answer before.
Well, from all the people I said, I feel like I have the best chance of actually having you for a Shabbos meal. So
Most definitely do. You most definitely probably do.
So you're always welcome.
Hey man, I really appreciate that. Yaakov, let us know. Is there any social medias that our fans and our viewers can follow you on?
Yeah, sure. So obviously go follow Meaningful People. We're on Instagram. We're on, wherever you find podcasts, on YouTube. I'm gonna give Nachi a shout out. He has an organization called Meaningful Minute, which is basically like just really cool organization to like they put out clips of just like really inspiring like words of wisdom and Torah. So definitely follow Meaningful Minute. He's around in a lot of places. And then on my own channels, yeah, I'm on Instagram as Yaakov Langer, YAAKOV LANGER. And on Twitter and other places, I'm Jack Langer. If you want to follow, but yeah, if for those listening who want like insight into, just Orthodox Jewish life and talking to really cool people doing cool things, check out our podcast, Meaningful People.
There we go. Make sure everybody checks out their podcast, Meaningful People. That's how I was able to connect with Yaakov himself. And honestly, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. This is our first ever Orthodox Jewish person on the show, and I couldn't have asked for a better person. I'm very honored to have you on the show, and I'm hoping that we can meet up down the line and continue building a relationship.
Yeah, dude, Steven, I think what you're doing is great. I don't know, maybe your podcast is to get me more into sports. Like I saw your Instagram page. You have like cool guests on, and like just really, I don't know, just the way you guys do it. It's just fun and just breath of fresh air. And you also have a beastly beard, so you put that all together. You're definitely someone that you're welcome in my home always. And yeah, for those who listen to this whole thing, I appreciate it.
Like I said before, you yeah, do you hear me? My speaker went down.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, but for those listening, thanks for listening to me talk for a while. And yeah, this was fun. This was a joy. Thank you.
Thank you, man, and honestly, stay safe, and hopefully your family stays safe as well. And let's go enjoy this. These holidays coming up, and Passover is what, next week? 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yeah, it's very soon.
Passover in 2 weeks. So Chag Sameach to you, or early Chag Sameach to you and your family. And hopefully, like I said, I'm really happy to met you, and hopefully down the line we can connect. When I'm in New York or whatever it might be. So I wish you nothing but the best with wish you nothing but the best with your podcast. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay meaningful.
I like that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ben.
No problem.